Should you sell your home in 2024? The short answer to that question is yes. I do think if you're considering selling your property within the next year or 2 years, then right now in 2024, before the election, is the best time to do it. Now, that's not because I think home prices are going to crash across the country after the election, but it's because we're at the top of the housing market right now, meaning that home prices are not going up any further, in my opinion. And now this is driven by an already high median sales price and stats that are showing the market is cooling across the entire country. Now, if you are in a market like Florida or Texas, you might have already missed the top. It might be on its way down into more of a buyer's market, but for most of the country, we're seeing a shift right now from a strong seller's market into a buyer's market. And so if you're a home seller right now, now is the probably your last chance to catch on to this seller's market here in 2024. Before we get into the video and these stats that are going to show my points, my name is Liam O'Reilly. I'm a realtor here in Vermont with Jerry Riley Real Estate. If you have any real estate needs, all my contact information is in the description, and I would be happy to help you. So the first thing we're going to take a look at is this chart out of Redfin. So this is just a simple chart showing the market data, and I have marked here the highlights in red are things that are not good for home sellers, things that are showing a shift away from a seller's market. And the highlights in green show aspects of the housing market that are still favorable for sellers. So you can see here, there's a lot of red. There's a lot of red, right? Pending sales are down, biggest decline in nearly 9 months. New listings are up, active listings are up, way up. Smallest increase in 3 months, though, which is also a positive sign for home sellers. We see the month supply is trending upwards. We're at 3.6 month supply of homes on the market. This is the ratio between buyers and active listings on the market right now. 3.6 month supply is barely a seller's market. You see, Redfin says 4 to 5 month supply is considered balanced. So below 4 months is considered a seller's market. Above 5 months is considered a buyer's market. So we're still technically in a seller's market. And we see that with some of the data I have marked in green. Share of homes off the market in 2 weeks. We're seeing almost 40% of all properties are going under contract within 2 weeks of hitting the market. Again, very strong for sellers in that regard. And 31% most likely have sold for over list price. Most of those properties have probably sold within the first 2 weeks of being on the market, but still a third of all listings out there roughly are selling for over list price. Now we have some more items in red here. 6.7% of listings had a price drop, which is the highest level on record. Now, Redfin only has data dating back to about 2017 or so. So this doesn't account for the 2008 housing crash that we experienced across the United States. But since 2017, this is the highest data, the highest mark that Redfin has seen. So why do I think, with all this red here, why do I think that right now is the best time to list your property if you're considering selling in the next couple of years? Well, things are trending down, but they're not down yet, right? We can see here that inventory is on the rise, new listings are up, pending sales are down, meaning there's less buyers out there to put these properties under contract, which means the market is trending towards a more balanced market, which could eventually shift to a buyer's market. And I mentioned at the beginning of this video that markets like Florida and Texas are already seeing the shift and maybe have already gone through the shift. It might be a balanced market or a buyer's market in some of those areas, but for most other markets across the United States, including here in Vermont, it is still a seller's market, but things are trending away from that. So why I think right now is probably your last time to catch on to the trend, the seller's market trend, is because things are still good for sellers right now. We're seeing that in the data. Things are still good. Most or a good amount of sellers are selling within 2 weeks. Many sellers are still getting more than what they have the property listed for, but this likely isn't going to last long. Now, we could do an about face, and the Federal Reserve could drop their interest rates, could start buying mortgage-backed securities, which would stimulate the housing market again and bring many buyers back into the market. And I don't think just because of how low inventory still is and how many people have locked in low mortgage rates, I don't think we're going to see a massive housing market crash. I think we're likely to see home prices remain flat, maybe up a little bit, maybe down a little bit, but not a huge drastic shift in sale price. So why does that, again, that would seem to counteract what I'm saying here, where I think now is the best time to sell. So what I think is that even if the median sales price doesn't drop drastically over the next couple of years here, what we could see is a less favorable time for you to list your property and sell your home. because your home likely won't sell in 2 weeks, a year from now. It likely isn't going to sell for over list price. So even though home prices aren't dropping, it's still going to be a more favorable market for you right now to list your property. At least that's my opinion based on the trends that we're seeing in the overall housing market. Now, something to note here is that even if rates drop, which I expect they will over the next few years, many people surveyed here out of Bankrate say that they're not going to purchase their property. They're not going to jump back into the housing market until rates drop below 6%. So could we see that by the end of the year? Maybe. Could we see that next year? We might as well. But, this is just kind of a random survey of people who might not know what that means, who might not know how a 5.5% mortgage rate will affect their home payment. And at these high prices, when we take a look at the median sales price now, we see that, at 400,000 median sales price across the United States, it's still going to be expensive for people to purchase property, even if mortgage rates drop down to 5.5%. I do think it'll bring more people into the housing market, but it's not going to be enough to completely restart the market and turn it back into a seller's market. So we could see a drastic rate drop down to 4%, 3% if things get really bad in the economy and the Federal Reserve starts to purchase mortgage-backed securities again and really stimulate the housing market. But as of right now, there's no signs that they're going to be doing that in the next year or 2 years. So I do think right now is the best time to list. Now, why I said before the election is because this is the best data that I've found about the election. This is out of Keeping Current Matters. In November here of an election year, we typically see home sales drop. People sit on the sidelines, they wait to see what happens in the election, and they're not focused on purchasing property. So if you wait too long, if you wait until November to list your property, then you're probably going to experience a much slower market than what we're experiencing now, which is already a very slow market. Now we can see here, this is a chart of home sales. So not prices, but the number of sales, number of transactions that happen before or during an election year and after an election year. I don't think there's much correlation. What they say here is that home sales dip in November and are usually unchanged for the rest of the year, and home prices don't change. An election year doesn't change the trend in home prices that has already taken place. Now, of course, when we take a look at this Redfin data, we see that home prices are trending flat. They shot up and now they're trending flat. I do think we're going to see it dip down a little bit, just like we saw in 2022 and 2023 as we move out of this spring and summer market and into the fall and winter market, which tends to be a little bit slower, and the median sales price tends to trend down. I don't think we're going to see that shift, but more importantly, if shifts don't change in the housing market because of an election, then we shouldn't see a shift in this data that is taking place right now, right? With sales down 5.4% or 5.7%, new listings up 6.1%, and active inventory way up year over year. All these signs that are trending away from a seller's market and into more of a buyer's market. That's likely not going to stop, again, unless we see a major shift from the Federal Reserve. So in summary, look, I don't know your situation. You have to make the best decision for your housing needs. Again, if you need a realtor, even if you're not in Vermont, I'd be happy to help you find a great realtor who can help advise you on what's going on in your specific market, because things do vary across the country. But if you are considering selling within the next year or 2 years, then I do think right now is going to be the best time for you to list your properties. Of course, things could always change. Nobody knows what's going to happen in the future, but the way that things are trending is not great for home sellers for 2020 in 2025, 2026. Of course, we'll see what happens. I personally am not selling my properties. I don't think this is a reason that you should get out of the housing market and sell your property and go rent. If that's something you're considering, rents are still very high, and it's not. I don't think this is a great time to try to time the market, because all signs are showing that inventory is still low. People are locked into their low mortgage rates. And, on those low mortgage rates, I wouldn't sell if I had a mortgage rate below 5% right now. I mean, that's such a good asset to have, is that low mortgage rate that might not come back for years, or maybe never. It might never come back. We just don't know. So I would hold on to that sub 5% mortgage rate if you have the ability to. But again, this video is really for people who are considering selling, and in the next couple of years, now is the time to do so. So Let me know what you guys think. Thank you so much for watching the video. Leave me a comment. I love hearing your perspective on these things, and I'll see you in the next video.